just want to start on a simple note that the venue, the very moment I started to stream the DVD, all thanks to Inside Out guys, and the very first the clip of you guys backstage prepping up, the crowd coming in. When I looked at the venue, there's that goosebumps moment that, wow, this is ancient, this is epic. How's Devin gonna sound in this environment? And the moment you start with the very first song, there was like I was literally getting goosebumps. And that's how I felt as I kept on seeing you guys perform with the orchestra, with so many people, such an epic venue. That's me sitting on the other side of the world, watching in front of 15-inch, 20-inch screen. But you lived it right there. How was it for you guys?
I think because the year was really busy, there was a part of me that was on autopilot for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when I had the opportunity to edit it and to go through the visuals and really relive it in that sense, it's one of those moments where when you're young, you often think, I would like to get to a situation where I could do something just like that. And there was a moment during the editing where I realized that I had been able to experience that, and I'm very proud of it, man. But at the same time, my objectives with the music are so rooted in the actual music that whatever venue it gets performed at, and in a certain way with whoever is helping me perform it, whether or not it's the orchestra or certain musicians or whatever, it's a means to an end. And so I think after the Bulgaria project was done, I was able to look at it and say, well, that was really cool. Next, I would like to do it in this format, whatever the next format is. I'm always thinking ahead, and it's not because I don't enjoy the experience or I'm not present for the experience, but it's very separate from my intention, I guess. My intention is just strictly the music most of the time.
It's quite amazing to see the set list that was chosen by the fans was so heavy on older material. I mean, they're just 3 songs later than the first Siltoid album, and all of those are from the most recent ones. Was it kind of a surprise to you that, okay, fans have a totally different take, or did you kind of expect it?
Well, it's relieving to me. I mean, even when the DTP was disbanded, there was people online saying, I'm really disappointed that my favorite band is finished, and then they post a picture of Ocean Machine, which has nothing to do with the band in a lot of ways, right? So I think the fact that the older material was viewed favorably for a by request set gives me hope that what I'm working on now, which is a little more out there than it has been, will still be acceptable. I think it was ultimately a great thing to see that set list come together, because a lot of that material, like you've seen me redo songs in the past. Kingdom gets redone, whatever gets over and over. I'll redo Home or Truth or whatever. And I think a lot of my reasons for doing that is I just never feel like I got it right at the time. And I could probably redo these songs over and over and over and over and over, and I still would never actually get it to the point where it resonates in the same way as it does in my head. But to be able to have the opportunity to redo some of the older stuff really plays into that tendency for me.
That's super cool, man. And then the orchestra of these songs, how long did the whole thing take, to complete? And I'm sure you must have enjoyed the whole experience, but that also comes with some of the difficulties with having such a full orchestra and a choir, especially on a cold night. So how was this whole experience?
It was really cold, man. Well, there's a couple things. I'll start with the technical side of it. I think when I was younger, I assumed that what I would want to do with music was to take all these songs that I had done, and very much like the Plovdiv DVD, put orchestra and choir on them. However, I realized that by doing it the way that it was done, like there's not a huge budget for the show, so the concession that we made with the orchestra and the conductor is that he would write his own parts to the song.
Okay.
And I was nervous about that at first, because what I do is so vision-based that I was afraid there's just no real estate in the music for additional ideas. And to be perfectly honest, there was a certain amount of that was very true. Like, I came there and it was like a collision. You know, he had written a big orchestral part, and then there's this big orchestral arrangement going on at the same time, and it was so congested that by doing that, I recognized that as much as I love the idea of orchestra and choir, I have to write with them together, or else it's just too much. There's no breathing space for it.
Right.
And you know, I think that now what I'm doing with Empath and Moth and all that, and the orchestral elements that I'm using for this, it's very much a direct result of having had that experience. Because God, trying to mix some of that stuff in, man, it's just constant information. There's samples and guitars and drums and choirs and orchestras and puppets and whatever. It's too much, man. But we made it work, and some of the concessions that I made musically and some of the concessions that the orchestral leader made musically made it work, and it was ultimately a great thing. But I think the second point I was going to make is that I've been touring now almost constantly for 8 years, and the last year, the year in which we did that show, we were out for almost 10 months.
Right.
So when it came time to putting together that set list, you know, if it had just been that show, it probably would have been a lot more of a joyous sort of thing.
Understood,
and even though there was certainly an element of joy to it, it was also tinged with uber fatigue. Like, everybody was tired.
Right.
Everybody was. There was no, like, we didn't stop touring, learn the material, and then did it. It was, we were learning the material on planes and backstage, and there was an element of chaos to it that I didn't enjoy, to be honest. But by the time all was said and done, and by the time it was all up on stage and going, I enjoyed that moment very much. But it also, again, it was one of those things that when this show was over, when that tour was over, I was like, I really need to step back from that level of constant chaos, because all it's going to do is make the music in the future less accurate. I'm going to be writing based on fatigue rather than, you know, really thinking it out.
Focused, right?
Yeah, that's it. It was really hard to focus on that. So it's ironic too, because it's like one of these lifelong dreams to do that.
Right, and then and the body is fatigued, and you still, you know, do your best, because I don't see that on your face, dude. I don't see that on anyone's face. Everyone's having a good time.
Well, you can't. You can't. Once I was up there, I mean, there was absolutely zero stress. It was just like, now that I'm on stage, this is a dream come true. I love this. All these people have come from all over the world. This is exactly what I want to be doing.
Right.
But it was a little disappointing just prior to that, because everybody was just so fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, the crew and everybody, it's like trying to learn this stuff and the technical things, and no one's sleeping, and you have to take you know what I mean? It was like
chaos.
So there was a part of me that was a little like little disappointed that I wasn't more mentally on the ball for that, because I think I could have enjoyed it even more.
Right. That's really great,
man. The show was great.
That's absolutely great. You know, 20 years have passed. It's a long time. But for you to sing these songs again from a vocal perspective, did you find any difference, keeping in mind that this is something you wrote like 2 decades ago?
I think my voice is stronger now, in a sense. I think that has a lot to do with, I think, even the physiology of it. I think my neck is stronger. I think my mind is stronger than it was. And a lot of the vocal performances that I have written have a lot to do with the mindset. You know, like, to be able to do certain notes or to reach certain things has a lot more to do with the frame of mind. And it is a very solid frame of mind I'm in right now. But I think someone had asked me this yesterday, how do you feel about playing this older music? And honestly, the way that I wrote music then is identical to the way I write music now. The aesthetic changes because my influences change, and my age is different, and, you know, the people who are around me bring new things into my world. And so the aesthetic of what I change, or what I do, whether or not it's orchestral or strapping or DTP or ziltoid or casualties, it's always going to be different.
True.
But the method that it was written and the reasons why it was written are the same now as it was with Ocean Machine. So
understood.
The only difference now is I don't have hair, right?
Well, that's how it should be. That's how it should be. It's
efficient. It's efficient.
That absolutely. Has the project exceeded your expectations now that this is the 4th live release and you've done so many albums? And if I count Sky Blue, it's 8. It's even 8 records as far as my memory goes. So, great history with DTP, great members. Everyone has been such a an amazing player on studio, live, and obviously you guys being very close friends. When you think of all this and walking away with it to chase your next set of dreams, has this fulfilled your expectations?
Yeah, I think it exceeded it in a way, and I think because if you look at the first 4 DTP records, Key, Addicted, Deconstruction, and Ghost, they weren't necessarily those guys, right? It was like a lot of different people playing on that, and the DTP as a title more summarized a period of my musical growth rather than DTP the band.
Okay.
And I think that by the time we started Epicloud, Epicloud, Z2, and Transcendence were those guys.
Right.
And yeah, it's like my relationship with them was really close, and it was a great situation for me to be in, and it exceeded it because I don't actually ever thought I intended it to go as far as it did, right? But in the same way, that's the same thing that happened with Strapping. It's just the boat starts floating, and then before you know it, you're at sea, and you need to keep paddling.
Right.
And I think that it exceeded it in that it became more popular than I expected, but it also is no different than I expected in that it's just the title DTP is, in a sense, not much different than Strapping was, or Terrier was, or Ziltoid was. It's just that's what that period of output was labeled as, right? Right. And so moving into this next period for me, again, it's the same thing. It's just trying to articulate it accurately requires a real presence in where you are in life, right? And
True.
Yeah.
And how's it going for you? I know you're working on multiple albums, and you've said repeatedly from last few months, say in the last year, that you're working on, I believe, 4 records or say 4 projects, which is different from each other, and there's a lot of information currently. But what is it that you said that you're the most happiest right now, keeping your whole time of as a musician, so that's really great. But what is it that you're looking at now? Are you going to divide it into, say, one album now, another one next year, or is it just you're going to throw everything at one go for fans to digest?
God, I don't know, man. Maybe you can help me with that, because I'm struggling with that every day, right? I mean, I just write. At this point, what I've done is I've scheduled my my time that I've got off, quote unquote, into parcels of productivity, and currently I'm not thinking about how I'm going to do it live. Okay. I'm not thinking about what comes out on what record. All I'm doing is just writing, and I'm writing constantly, and that material has come out in a lot of different ways. There's a real healthy orchestral element. There's a surprisingly heavy element, sort of throwback to Strapping in a certain way. There's a really melodic and commercial aspect that's come out. There's a really avant-garde, super proggy part, and there's a really mellow part. Now, I mean, technically, if I was following the same trajectory as what I had done with DTP, I could put these all out as different albums and release them concurrently. But I think the thing that's important for me to recognize is the reason I did that during the beginning of DTP is because that's what was important for me to do. And that process of putting out different music consecutively was a real fundamental part of that period of growth, and I don't know if that's the case right now. So what may be the alternative is to make an album, at least this first one, Empath, that includes all of that in some ways. You know, so at first I was trying to fit it all into a single record, but I think in my mind I was trying to compete or at least be cognizant of the fact that Transcendence came prior, and that was a very concise statement. And, you know, there's a certain amount that I think people are going to be expecting a follow-up to that should be similar. But the more I think about it, I'm just like, man, this is not Transcendence. This is a really disparate collection of songs. And so even the title Empath, the idea with it is, the older I get, the more I recognize my emotional immaturity. For example, I look back at Strapping and I was trying to understand anger. I was trying to understand fear. I look back at Accelerated Evolution. I'm trying to understand love. I'm trying to understand depression. You know, all these things are very clear to me that my music has been a convenient way for me to figure myself out emotionally. So when it has come now to this Empath thing, and because I've written tons of angry stuff, tons of happy stuff, tons of crazy stuff, you know what I mean? Perhaps what this period is an opportunity for all of that to sort of exist together in one place. And then when the record comes out, it's as the title Empath would suggest, you're feeling these emotions, and if I could make it work, perhaps this record would function really well to have it all in there, and you just go between all these different emotions in one place, right? But this period, as I discussed a couple of minutes ago, is really just about me writing, and I'm not, even though subconsciously I'm kind of making mental notes as to perhaps we'll do it that way, perhaps we won't do it that way. I'm going to wait until the end of this month to look at what I've done and then really decide. But bottom line is, it's the same as I've always done, but it's a different period, so it has to come out differently, right? Clearly.
So if I understand it right, it basically indicates that, you know, obviously you wanted to have, like you mentioned, 4 different musical areas of Devin Townsend. You know, you mentioned the mellow one, the super proggy one, the commercial one, and, you know, the other spectrum as well. So to me it sounds like 4 different records with 4 different sounds, but then you decided to mix them up and try to make it as one record, which doesn't seem to be possible as per what you say. So the album Empath that you're planning to say release, I don't know, maybe this year or next year, this is going to have a combination of, let me say, the complete era of Devin Townsend as a musician.
I think that's what it's looking like at this point. And I think it's really liberating as well, because, you know, when I was doing Strapping, I would work on a song like Shitstorm or something, or Oh My Fucking God or something. And then when that song was over, I wanted to hear more. You know, it was so much about excessive. I wanted that, and then just go. And then when I was doing Infinity, all I wanted was just super psychedelic music. Just go. But what I always found with all this music, you know, Terria, anything, is that because each album had such a singular identity, after a while I was just fatigued by it all.
Right.
You know, and now, like, I'll write a song. There's several songs on Empath that are really fucking heavy. But when the song's over, I'm like, you know what I want to hear now? Something super mellow. Right. And the experience that, and again, I'll say it again, I'm not quite sure that that the identity is ready yet. Like it may or may not be like this.
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
what I'm starting to get the impression of is that I want to guide the experience, the listening experience. So when it gets heavy, it's because you wanted it to get heavy, and then when it's quiet, it's because you wanted to have a break.
Right.
You know, and to have that sort of roller coaster represented in an album, I mean, it may or may not work,
mm-hmm.
but all signs are pointing towards it will.
Right.
And it's just a matter now of finding the right songs for each emotion, right?
Right, and then have them as one. And, you know, what would you do with the rest of it? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you might have written like 20, 30, 40 songs. And it's always difficult to have all these, you know, so many, you know, let's say your different, you know, side of Devin Townsend, and then you got to choose, okay, let me put this on this record. What are you going to do with this eventually? Is it going to come out as a series of records based on, obviously, you spending a lot of time picking out the ones, finalizing Empath, move on to the next record, find again the tunes? So is it something that you've already written, recorded, and now it's just time to sit and decide what would make it to album number 1, album number 2, 3, and so on?
Yeah, for the most part, because when I do demos, I get the songs to like 80%
mm-hmm.
finished. Like they're not like just sketches for the most part. If an idea is good enough for me to pursue,
mm-hmm.
the demos are really complete. So when the decision has been made as to which songs go on and which songs don't go on, the rest of the stuff could come out at any point. Now, one of a couple of things could happen. At first, I thought Empath should be a single record for a couple of reasons. Like, number one, I always thought double records just suck. I just always thought it was too much material. It's my impression was always
it's too much to digest.
Couldn't they have just like cut it down a bit?
Mm-hmm.
But the more I start listening to this, and the more I'm trying to get all these emotions into one place, there's a part of me that really thinks that, well, maybe this is just one of those records. Maybe this is a double record
mm-hmm.
that includes all the best parts of what I've done recently,
mm-hmm.
and then all the stuff that doesn't make it. I mean, it'll always come out. It'll find a way, whether or not it's bonus tracks, or Germany needs an extra song, or Japan needs an extra song, or India needs a second song. You know what I mean? There's always, you know,
options.
A call for a lot of extra material, so that's never an issue. But unfortunately for my pride, I think on some level, I think the record I'm making now is a super bloated, super progressive, chaotic, beautiful thing that I think I just need to purge. I think I just need to make it, and it is what it is, and then it acts as a stopgap between what I've been doing with DTP and maybe what I'll do next with the Moth.
Cool. That's really great. So it's just a matter of time, like you said. This month you're going to decide when you plan to. So in that case, is our fans going to expect something by end of this year, or is it going to be 2019?
Well, I've been working on Empath's music for about a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's a lot of time.
You know, so yeah, and it's great. It's really great. I'm so fortunate to have been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to deliver the record by November, by
mm-hmm.
the end of November,
mm-hmm.
and the release is March. Apparently.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Next year.
That's great. So again, you said no more touring. I mean, at this point of time, you are not thinking about going live. So is this going to also come out as some kind of, say, you did the record which you had, you went for this crowdfunding, which was probably done in what, 12 hours or maybe even less than that, and you know that was chaos. So is that something that you also look at the end of the day, that let fans also be part of this experience and see the multiple nature of what Devin is always up to?
Well, there's going to be a couple things. Number one, the audience is a huge part of what I do, and I think about the audience when I'm writing as well. Like, it's not just about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, you know, the people who support it.
I tell you something, you're the first one to tell me that. You're the first one to tell me that you always think about the fans. Every musician I've, you know, ask this question that what is it that's important to you, and they say I should feel that music, and you're someone who said it openly that I do it for myself, but at the same time I also think of the fans. Not everybody says that.
Oh, well, you know what, man? That's relationships. It's like I've been married for so many years. I got kids. I got a friend. That's absurd. And I think that when you have people who have an emotional investment in what you do musically, I want people to like it, and I'm not doing it for people. It's just I'm doing it for myself. But then when I have all that music there, I think to myself, of this music, what would make a great experience for people who like what I do?
Right.
And I think with that, it's really important to involve the people that listen. I hate the word fans. It just seems super condescending.
It's family.
But at the same time, yeah, it's audience, and crowdfunding is one thing, but then you're asking for money. You know what I mean? And it's as much as I need money to do what I do, I fucking hate money. So what I might prefer to do is something more like the Universal Choir this time again, or something that just brings people into the situation and includes them, because even again, and I'm going to have to end the interview. I mean,
I know you have an interview coming up. Right.
The title Empath, it's like the concept of the record is in order to understand compassion, not only for yourself but for other people, you have to be willing to look at things from other people's perspective, to feel how other people are feeling.
Right.
And I think that the fact that there's so many different styles on the record, there's so many different aspects of it, you know, playing into having to disband the band and how difficult that was for everybody. It's really about trying to learn how to experience the whole process of being human, not only from your perspective, but from the perspective of people that you care about, right?
Thanks a lot. Every time I discuss with you, I look at life and I learn it every time I speak to you. Always an honor.
I really appreciate the constant interactions we've had, my friend, and I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely, Devin. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.